All right, so get this. Today we're headed to Norway.
To Norway.
Yeah, Norway. To talk about farmland birds, of all things.
Oh, interesting. What about them?
Well, you sent over that study about how land use impacts those birds.
Right. Yeah,
We're diving into that today. It seems like a really fascinating topic.
it is. It's a really unique case study, especially with farmland bird populations, declining across Europe.
Exactly. And Norway's kind of doing its own thing, and it seems to be working, at least for some species.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm super curious about. This paper, it's called The Effect of Land Type Diversity and Spatial Heterogeneity on Farmland Birds in Norway. And they mentioned this whole landscape heterogeneity thing. What's the deal with that?
So landscape heterogeneity basically means how varied the landscape is.
Right.
Like you can think of it like a patchwork quilt. A heterogeneous landscape has tons of different patches of like fields, forests, meadows, all mixed up. And that's pretty typical in Norway, which is different from those large single crop fields you might picture like somewhere else.
Okay, so I'm picturing like rolling hills, a patchwork of fields, a few meadows, some forests in the distance.
Yeah.
I think I get it. But how does that actually help the birds?
Well, that's the interesting thing. The study found that more farmland in these mixed up landscapes actually meant they found a higher number of farmland bird species and even more birds overall. Which seems kind of counterintuitive, right? Because we always hear about how bad intensive farming is for birds.
Yeah, it is surprising. You would think more farmland equals less space for birds.
Right. But think about it this way. In areas with lots of undeveloped land, a little bit of farmland can add variety.
Okay.
It's like adding a spice to a dish. Like a pinch can really bring out the flavor, but too much can be overwhelming.
So adding a bit of farmland to a landscape that's like mostly wild can actually give these birds more options.
Yeah, precisely. It's all about balance,
Yeah.
essentially. And what's interesting is the studies from Britain and Sweden, they've shown similar results.
Yeah.
So the impact of agriculture on birds really depends on the context, on the surrounding environment.
Huh. Well, this is already making me rethink those like vast fields I've seen. So it's not even just about how MECH farmland exists, but like how it all fits together. That's where this heterogeneity thing comes in, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And the study actually dug even deeper to see if it's just the amount of farmland or the arrangement of it that makes a difference to these birds.
So how did they actually measure this whole heterogeneity thing? Did they just like eyeball it and say, yep, this landscape looks pretty mixed up?
Well, thankfully, it was a little more scientific than that.
Okay.
They used something called a heterogeneity index.
A what?
A heterogeneity index, or HIX for short,
Okay.
to kind of quantify it. So basically, a higher HIX score means a more diverse and interwoven landscape, like that patchwork quilt we were talking about.
Okay, got it. So higher HIX, more variety. What did they find when they looked at that in relation to the birds?
So areas with a higher HIX, those with a more, interwoven landscape, they had a greater abundance of birds and a greater variety of birds as well.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just true for those farmland birds, but also like other bird species too.
Oh, wow. So it really does seem to make a difference.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Which makes sense, right? Because different birds need different kinds of spaces. Like a meadow might be great for like finding food, but
Yeah.
a forest would be a safer place to build a nest.
Right, exactly. And, a hedgerow could be a perfect spot to hide from a predator or even just like find insects and things.
Right.
This whole heterogeneity thing, it's not just some like abstract ecological concept.
Yeah.
It's about giving those birds a diverse range of resources. And those microhabitats, they're super essential for being able to support, a wider range of species.
So mix it up. Got it. But the study also looked at this other concept, land type diversity, or LTD. What's that all about?
So LTD refers to the variety of like different types of land in a given area.
Okay.
Things like forests, wetlands, grasslands, and of course farmland.
So more types of land is better.
Whiting.
More diversity for everyone.
That's where things get a little, nuanced. The study actually found that while higher LTD did lead to a greater diversity of farmland bird species,
Okay.
it didn't necessarily mean more birds overall.
Hmm.
In some cases, it actually led to a lower number of birds.
Wait, really? That seems kind of counterintuitive. You'd think more diverse landscapes would equal more birds.
Yeah, you'd think,
Yeah.
but not necessarily. Think of it this way. Like if you have a big house with lots of different rooms, that could attract a more diverse group of roommates.
Okay.
But if you only have one refrigerator for everyone to share,
Oh, I see.
there might be fewer snacks to go around for each person.
So even if a landscape offers a wider range of habitats, if those habitats are smaller or more fragmented, it might not actually support big populations of any one
Yeah,
species.
that's exactly right.
It's about finding that right balance.
Exactly. And this highlights something really crucial, I think. When it comes to managing landscapes for biodiversity, there can be trade-offs. What benefits one species might not be ideal for another.
This is kind of making me think of those, those agri-environmental schemes,
Right, right.
the
Yeah.
AES things that
Yeah.
are like popping up more and more where they're like encouraging farmers to manage their land in a more eco-friendly way.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, it's not like a one-size-fits-all solution.
No, definitely not. You can't just tell everyone to plant more hedgerows and expect that to solve everything.
Right.
Because while hedgerows can be a really valuable habitat for some birds, they might actually harm others.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, if they reduce that, overall heterogeneity of the landscape,
Right.
or if they take up space that could be used for other important habitats like meadows.
So it really like trying to solve some kind of puzzle. You need to see the whole picture, not just focus on one piece.
Exactly. It's all about those connections. We need to move beyond those simple solutions
Yeah.
and really embrace this complexity.
Mhm.
And that means really carefully analyzing the specific needs of those different bird communities in that area.
Okay.
And then you can tailor those conservation efforts to that specific situation.
It's about that customization.
Yeah, and sometimes that might mean prioritizing a mix of different habitat types,
Right.
even if it means having less of any one specific habitat.
This has been really uh, eye-opening, actually. So it's not enough to just look at like how much of a certain habitat exists. We have
Mhm.
to think about how those habitats are arranged, how they're connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Think of the landscape like an interconnected web.
Mhm.
Even small changes in one area can have these ripple effects.
Wow. It really makes you appreciate those connections. Well, on that note, I think we've successfully navigated the Norwegian farmland bird landscape.
I think we have, yeah. It's been a journey.
This was great. Until next time.
See you next time.